there's no better way to start your week than with a brand new Village Vice. He is Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Plenty to talk about here on this third Sunday in December. Welcome in. Zach, we're going to start with some press conference talk for the bowl game, some portal talk, getting into some basketball as well. But Hugh Freeze met with the media Saturday to preview the bowl and other stuff. Like, it wasn't just a bowl preview. We're going to get some personnel updates. And I thought one of the most intriguing conversation points was about the quarterbacks, when he basically said the trendy thing to do is to look at every new quarterback and say, this is your guy, this is your guy. But he started throwing out Peyton Thorne's winning numbers and completion percentages and basically just said point blank, they believe Peyton Thorne is their guy. To me, Zach, that sort of took a lot of the drama around portal season and put it on the shelf. What about you?
I think it's some of that. And I also think there is a salary cap component to this. Like, there is a budget from an NIL standpoint that is a factor in this. Could they have gone out and dropped millions of dollars on a new quarterback? Maybe. But I don't think the ones that were available are that much better or better at all than Peyton Thorne. I think when you look at the Riley Leonards, I think what Peyton Thorne did in Michigan State was more impressive than what Riley Leonard did at Duke. And we could talk about that with Kyle McCord. We could talk about that with several guys that Auburn fans were I'm sure, tweeting at Hugh Freeze and a bunch of other folks saying, hey, let's go get this guy. So I'm with you. Could Auburn have gone out and gotten a transfer portal quarterback? I think they could have, Brad. I think they could have. And I think this would have been a place where Auburn could have sold the fact of, like, man, you're about to have a really talented wide receiver room coming in, young, but talented. And I think folks would have listened, especially with the fan base, especially with the NIL money that they have throwing around. I think they would have listened for sure. Mm-hmm. But several of these guys that Auburn fans were super interested in, I'm like, I don't think it's a better situation than Peyton Thorne going into his second season where he doesn't have to relearn the scheme and relearn the offense. I think that's such an underrated part of all this. Looks like you agree. And so, yeah, give me Peyton Thorne over all but one or two of the guys that played quarterback that entered the portal this window.
Yeah, and not just Peyton by himself. Like, he's the guy you want to take all the snaps because it means he's staying healthy and productive, and
sure,
and he's running it. But the other quote, sort of the back half of a long quote from Hugh Freeze in Saturday's presser was, number one, if you take one, this is just, I'm going to read the full thing. I know we don't do a lot of that, but number one, if you take one, you're probably going to lose Peyton Holden. You better be right. I believe in Peyton. I believe in Holden. I believe in Hank. And I believe in the kid we have coming. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's my belief. And then he said, I'm looking forward to getting better pieces in our offense and him improving. So there is sort of opportunity cost. And you understand that if you bring in somebody brand new, you're not just going to net one plus. You're going to plus one and then minus one. And now your room lacks at least a marginal part of the experience that it had. So you better be right, I think, is the key term there. If you bring in somebody new, you have to start all over. They have to learn the scheme. They have to get comfortable with the line, the personnel, the receivers. And all of that groundwork is already in place, not just with Peyton, but with Holden and with Hank. And now looking at next year, you only really have to start from scratch with one guy who you're likely not going to be counting on to play meaningful snaps in 24 anyway.
Yeah, I think that's true. And we had this discussion on the Friday edition of Village Vice when we were kind of recording shortly after the news about Robbie Ashford entering the portal came out. And we posed the question in our buy-sell segment of, okay, are we buying or selling? These are the four quarterbacks. This is the same quarterback room that's going to enter the season in 8 or 9 months. And we both bought it. And I think there are some caveats, right? Like if Holden Geriner, which my understanding is Holden has been told he has a chance to fight for the starting job, which I'm sure he says that to everybody. I'm sure, I don't think that's a special Holden thing. I bet this coaching staff has told that to every player on this roster, which isn't unusual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, what if he's not the starter and is clearly Peyton and Holden never feels like he got those true like reps with the ones the same amount that Peyton did, and maybe he were to want to leave after that, then I think you have to go out and get a transfer that's possibly like a veteran backup.
Yeah.
But I don't know why Holden would leave in that point. I think then it would set up like you're probably not going to start right away, not going through spring somewhere else. And so you could just sit at Auburn and be groomed to be the next guy, which is the best case for Auburn. Because then all of a sudden you have what every team covets is this clear pecking order of the future at a position, specifically quarterback. You want that for all the positions, but for specifically quarterbacks, okay, you got one more year of Thorne, then you got a year or two of Peyton, then you've got a year or two of whoever wins the battle between Hank Brown and Walker White. And then whoever's after that, they'll already be in the system for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So like you can see what they're doing here and it makes sense. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about another year of Peyton in the system. I'm excited about maybe a year of Holden or a year of Hank or a year of Walker. It all makes sense with what they're trying to build for the future. So there's layers to it, Brad, and it seems like the staff is nailing it.
Auburn's had great success with guys who didn't really have roots in the program before coming to Auburn. There's no question, but it does make you feel a little more secure when multiple guys in that room that can be good players for you and can lead your team to wins have roots. They're familiar with the system. They've been in it and they've been a part of the culture for more than 1 year. Gives you a good feeling.
It's going to help you with the recruiting pitch too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you don't have to worry about us going out and getting a portal guy your junior year because we know that you're going to be who we need you to be by the time you are a junior or a redshirt sophomore and it's your turn. So I think it only helps. I think it only gives you another arrow in the quiver of Hugh Freeze and this coaching staff when they call on quarterbacks.
All right. Speaking of arrows that you have or you don't have, this won't be a full 20-minute press conference reaction show. We won't do that. It was Saturday, and a lot of people have just watched the whole thing by now. But I wanted to note and talk about some of the bowl opt-outs that he mentioned by name, and the impact that has on preparation and maybe even expectations on the bowl game itself. But DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, Marcus Harris, 3 guys, 3 starters on defense, 3 major players defensively that are opting out of the bowl game. Jalen Simpson, if the hamstring recovery goes well enough, he wants to play. It's just a matter of if he's able to. So let's leave Jalen over here separately and just talk James, Pritchett, and Harris and the impact that has on Auburn's defense against Maryland.
Can I give you an unpopular opinion, Brad? I may get canceled for this.
Okay.
But I'm extremely pro veteran players that are going to the league not playing in bowl games.
Okay.
I just am. And I get that they want to, and if they want to, they should have every right to do so. But protect your draft stock. All those guys will get drafted within the first 2 days, maybe early day 3, but good for those guys. But from an Auburn perspective, from a college football program perspective, use this bowl game to get some real quality reps for what the future looks like. We get to see Kayan Lee as a cornerback 1 against Maryland, possibly going against Taulia Tagovailoa. I read somewhere that they're expecting him to sit out, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I mean, those are real quality reps. And then who steps up at that other cornerback spot? Is it JD Rim? Do they try Keontae Scott out there just to see what it looks like? I mean, you can really use this if you're Ron Roberts and Hugh Freeze and say, what do we have? Because Auburn's cornerback room, and I'm sure we've talked about this before on here, Brad, it's not empty. It's not like there's no talent. Like JD Rim, Kayan Lee, Terrence Love's more of a safety, Colton Hood, Tyler Scott, JC Hart, all of these guys can play. They were all highly recruited, coveted guys that trended late in their recruiting cycle for a reason, because they can play, because they have the skills that you look for. And so now it's like, okay, a lot of these guys, you got a year under your belt. You've been running scout team. Let's give you a shot and let's see who steps up, because not only can you look and say, hey, this is what's available for the bowl game, but until we add a corner or 2 via the portal, that path is still going to be there.
Yeah.
And so those are all guys that I say, hey, give them a shot, give them a green light and say, hey, there's essentially a starting role for the bowl game. Go get it. I think that's great. I think that,
No.
I mean, you talk about making those bowl practices count.
Yeah.
Create that competition, give them something to fight for.
Reminds me a little bit of the scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker's got the pool cue and there's two guys there and they brought him in and goes, all right, there's one spot available on our team. So we're going to have tryouts. There's only one spot, and he throws the pool cue down there after he breaks it in half and he goes, make it fast. So, yeah, competition is a really good thing. Yes.
I think we just made show history.
Did I reference a movie you have seen?
I think it's the first time you've referenced a movie that I've actually seen.
Well,
are we growing?
So.
Are we growing?
Well, look, that was a layup for you. It's a post 2003 or 2004 movie, so you'll watch it.
Well, right. You've got to make your layups, Brad. You've got to make your layups, and that's what Auburn basketball did. That's what Auburn basketball did. You want to talk Auburn basketball in a second? You cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I will echo the point you made about the corners, though, and how it's reasonable to expect that those young guys are going to be the ones that are carrying a lot of the load next year. It would be different like at a wide receiver position where I would love to have the guys who played the most during the regular season play in this bowl game, because I don't think it's as reasonable to think that the guys behind them that are here now would be carrying the load next year. So position by position, yes, I think that's absolutely true at the corner spot.
Yeah, and I think you can make the argument for receivers like, okay, let's let Caleb Burton play without having to be worried about Javarius Johnson. You know what I mean? Let's see what, Camden Brown can do without having to worry about, and Shane Hooks may play in the bowl game. I don't know. Yeah. But, still, you got to think he'll have a larger role than he normally would at that outside spot. So
I think those guys can help themselves in the bowl game too. The question about what do you do for your future? Is it better to sit out or not to sit out? I was on a group text that guys were chiming in last night. One specifically who played a long time in the NFL said, I probably don't get drafted had I not played in the bowl game my senior year. My performance in the bowl game probably helped me get drafted. So a little bit of that is like old guard saying, I can't believe the new guard opts out of these games, but he genuinely believes that his performance in the bowl game helped him get drafted.
So. And that may be true, but I think the way the NFL scouts now is different than the way it was, maybe when that guy was playing. I don't know. But now I'm trying to think who it is actually what I'm doing. But all right, let's talk about our friends at mybookie.ag. It's the best place to wager on all of your sports action. Mybookie.ag. Bowl season is here. It was fun watching games on Saturday. It was also fun watching a bunch of NFL games. Being invested in mybookie.ag while those games are playing, it just makes all of the action better. If you're watching this show, you know your stuff. Make some money. Make some money at mybookie.ag. And when you make that first deposit, use promo code NEXTROUND. You'll get some extra free money to play with. Mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND. We're recording this shortly after Auburn basketball really took it to USC, Brad. I mean, what a treat. What a treat that was to see this team continue to click for both halves. This team is feeling themselves right now.
Yeah, they're playing 10 or 11 guys pretty regularly. Like Leor Berman got 8 minutes today. So they're playing 11 guys regularly.
Yeah.
And that enables you to play such clean basketball. Not only are you fresher, but there's also that element of, if I'm not sharp, if I'm not getting it done, somebody else is coming in. I don't stay on the floor if I'm not sharp. And that has led to, another game with single-digit turnovers. Auburn won 91-75, if you're unaware. 8 turnovers in the game. Auburn shot 47.5% for the game, only took about a third of their shots from 3, dominated in the paint, shot 78% on 32 free throws.
I love that.
The inside game was working. They were winning one-on-one matchups. They were getting down the floor. They continued to play unselfish. I'm telling you, folks, it's okay to go ahead and buy in. This is a very good Auburn basketball team. And unless things change, there is nothing from watching this team through its first, 8 weeks or whatever it's been now. feels like 9 or 10 weeks with all the road games. But through the first 6 weeks or so of the season, there's nothing that tells me this team can't be right there in the thick of the SEC title race this year.
And they should be. They should be. I mean, right now, I think the SEC has shown a lot of inconsistencies, really with the exception of Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been spectacular, and they dropped the game that they shouldn't have too. I don't know if it was within the last 3 weeks or not, but their game against Miami and then their game this weekend against North Carolina, like they probably deserve the nod to be at the top. But after that, Brad, I think it's wide open, and I think Auburn should certainly be a part of that conversation. And we've talked about it before with this team, but it's the B word, balance. And you can look at it as far as balance of minutes, the balance of point distribution, 5 guys in double digits on Sunday with Aiden Holloway's 15, Jalen's 14, Janai's 11, Denver's 12 off of just 4 shots, and Dylan Cardwell's 11. I mean, that's awesome. And then when you look at these guys that were role players for the vast majority of their career, looking at Dylan Cardwell, you look at him now, and he's not just a dude who's like got to eat minutes for Janai Broome to get a breather on the sideline or Walker Kessler to get a breather on the sideline. He is a truly good college basketball player on both sides of the floor. And that to me has been an understated storyline of this team so far. But like, Dylan Cardwell's legit. Like he's not just the Energizer bunny that, gives a shot in the arm to everybody to kind of make them feel better when they need to go on a run. He's truly doing it, and he's performing at a high level. So couple that with the newcomers and these guys that can score double digits on any given night. This team is deep, man, and it's true. It's true depth.
Especially at the 1 and the 5, when your second guy comes in and you don't fall off all that much. At the 1 and the 5, that's elite. It's elite. Auburn's point guards today, Aiden Holloway had 15. Trey Donaldson had 7. So you go 22 points off of
7 off of 4 shots too.
Yeah, 7 points off 4. Exactly. He was 3 for 4. So they combined to go 7 for 14. I'm sorry, 8 for 14. 22 points, 4 rebounds, 11 assists, and 1 turnover from your point guard. And when Trey comes in the game, the speed of the game picks up. Aiden is a lot more deliberate, and there's a lot more time spent around the perimeter with the ball. Trey's not that way. It is full bore. It is 90 miles an hour. And man, they're also, I think they've gotten better defensively faster than the coaching staff expected. Now, look, the USC team today, after watching them, I understand why they're 5-5. Auburn won't play a lot more individually talented teams than USC. But in the first half, they averaged 2.5 passes per possession. And the most passes USC had in a single possession in the first half was 4.
Wow.
They play a lot of one-on-one ball. And so if you have team-oriented defense and you can help effectively and you can keep your guys in front of you, fight through screens, off-ball defense, all that you're going to beat that team. And that's why 5 teams have. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Auburn is playing really well defensively. They're playing great offensively. They can take an 8-point game and turn it to 14 in 45 seconds like they did to close the first half. And then USC never got it to within single digits after that.
Yeah. And I think the timeliness of when guys stepped up was a big part of it too. USC would get it close to double figures in the second half, and then Denver Jones would make a play, or Chad Baker Mazara would make a play. Like the timeliness of when things fall certainly matters too. And I think that's actually something that Auburn has lacked a little bit over the last few seasons. So we talked about everybody kind of staying in their lane and kind of doing what their job and role is. And that's certainly what we saw on Sunday. So this team can be good, Brad. This team can be really, really good. And right now I'd have them in the top 4 teams in the SEC. And I think that's all you really need to be. If you're in that conversation, win the right few games, you got a chance.
That's exactly right. That Final Four team finished 5th in the league in the standings. They caught fire at the right time. But yeah, typically your top 4 in the SEC, then all of your goals for the postseason are right there in front of you. Absolutely agree.
You're right. All right. Speaking of right there in front of you, Brad, anybody want to give a shout out to?
Oh, well, I got to talk about our friends at Manscaped. Manscaped.com right now, 20% off plus free shipping. And, the holidays are here. Christmas is approaching. What if I told you celebrations are starting early this year? It turns out the perfect gift does in fact exist. And who else to bring it down your chimney than the leaders in below the waist grooming? All right. So keep calm. Let your balls jingle this season with Manscaped's brand new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. It features the new Lawnmower 5.0. And with that, you can watch all your wishes and those mistletoe kisses come true. Look nice if you're going naughty or staying on the nice list, whatever. Go to manscaped.com, use promo code VICE, VICE, as so many of you have already done. Get 20% off plus free shipping. Unwrap the gift of smoothness this season with Manscaped. Whether it's you or for others, Zach, I know you have you used promo code VICE at manscaped.com for a little gifting recently.
Yeah, just a quick PSA. I was actively looking, okay, where do I put the promo code? And they kind of hide the default one is holiday, and now it's only 10% off. So make sure you take out the holiday promo code and put in VICE. You'll get a 20% instead of 10%.
There you go. That's twice as much. I like twice as much, always.
That's right. That's
twice
right. So yeah. Thank you so much to our friends at Manscaped. No question about it. So I'm hesitant to spend a whole lot of time talking about the transfer portal, Brad, just because as soon as this happens, something could pop. And if it does, we'll certainly talk about it on Monday's edition of Village Vice. But I gave 3 names out. I put 3 names out there on Friday that I was watching, and 2 of them didn't make the visit. One of them committed to Arkansas before we got Carmona, the San Jose State offensive tackle, commits to Arkansas before even making the visit, which is the second time now that Auburn's really put an emphasis on a transfer offensive lineman, and they've committed elsewhere before even taking the visit. It's like that position, man. It doesn't matter what we're doing. That position's just been really tough for us to nail down. So interested to see what they do on the offensive line moving forward, where they pivot to. Because then it was like, okay, well, Mac Pounders was here last weekend. Maybe we can kind of reach out to him. And then he commits to Mississippi State over the weekend. So Auburn's got to figure out which direction they want to turn regarding offensive line, specifically offensive tackle, Brad.
Yeah, to bring this full circle, we started with Hugh Freeze presser quotes, and I'm going to throw in another one here. I thought, again, this was really revelatory. And again, I love this because it goes
What word you just say? Revelatory?
Revelatory, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I thought that we talk all the time about Coach Freeze not being someone you have to translate or decode. He just kind of tell you how it is.
Right.
For good or bad. It's better or worse. He's going to tell you the way it is. Right. And there have been some eyebrows raised at some of the guys Auburn has missed on in the portal. And I think we learned why watching the press conference Saturday. Here's what he said. And it makes me feel really optimistic about Wednesday and how Auburn closes signing day. Here's what he said, quote, "Because I'm really committed to trying to sign the best high school class we can, it's really hard for me to juggle the numbers in my mind of managing the 85. If you're really committed to that, you kind of have to see a few things through. If we don't get everything we need, which you typically don't, then you're hoping that the weekend in January provides you with a few of those possibilities to fill the gaps in the portal." So this is kind of like when we talked about Hugh Freeze, the recruiter, delegating to his coordinators for the game plan versus when he took it over and said, no, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. And we saw a big change. I'm really optimistic about the way the high school class finishes on Wednesday, because I think that's where the head coach has been putting all of his efforts.
So let's continue this conversation then. So let's assume that is 100% true at face value, which I'm cool with doing. I'm cool with doing that. You need an offensive tackle, and it doesn't appear that this high school class is going to have one, unless they win favor Edwin against Alabama, which I think he visited this weekend. I'm not positive. I think I read that on On3. I'm not positive, but
I think I did.
And his whole thing is like he's gonna be good. He's not gonna be good day one. He's a project player, so. I don't know if I buy that across the board, just because, and maybe it's a priority. Maybe this is more of a program priority than a 2024 priority, which makes sense, right? I totally get where he's coming from there because Dylan Wade is good enough. Dylan Wade is good enough to play left tackle. We saw it last year. He was not the problem Auburn's offense. He's not why Auburn's offense struggled at times a year ago. So I'm totally okay with that. Depth, but you can probably get depth in that last weekend of that first window. So once again, I'm with you there. Yeah. Defensive tackle is one that's interesting because with Marcus Harris leaving, as we record this, we haven't heard anything official on Justin Rogers, what exactly is happening with him. But that's one where it's like, if they flip LJ McCray and you feel good about TJ Lindsey, like those guys, I'm comfortable with them playing early, even playing day one. Are we comfortable with them playing 50 or 60 snaps a game? Right. I don't know, Brad. I don't know.
Yeah. And just how many true freshmen are you looking to realistically trot out there as a part of the mainline rotation next year? I mean, you typically don't want to do that on the offensive or defensive line if you can help it. If you're in a situation where you can help it, you don't want to try to do that. So I don't know. I do think, though, again, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, I do tend to think that's why. Like it's reasonable to me.
I agree.
That's why you haven't seen this major haul of transfer portal guys in the last 2 weeks. And it's why I think you could see some names on Wednesday that really make this one of the elite classes in the country.
Yeah, I mean, LJ McCray and KJ Bolden, I think, are the two. You feel good about Amaris Williams flipping, the 4-star defensive lineman, flipping from Florida to Auburn. He was tweeting WDE at Ryan Williams on Sunday. Like, you feel good about him. You feel good about Cone Eccles, the former Texas A&M commit. And, once again, on offensive line, that's a guard. Same with, DeAndre Carter. Those guys are guards.
Yeah.
We'll see how they use them. But, yeah, like LJ McCray, I think is good enough to play early, but you need beef. You need those 300+ pound guys. And right now you've got Jason Jones, and that's about it. Well, maybe Justin Rogers stays. Maybe he stays. The fact I've shockingly little has come out of his camp, which may be good for Auburn. I don't know. I don't know, but we've talked a ton about the freshman receivers, and that's fine. Like DeAndre Carter at guard, I wouldn't hate him. I don't think he'll need to play day one. Other freshmen on the defensive line, Malik Blockton, TJ Lindsey, Dimitri Nicholas. Blockton's evals are all over the place. TJ Lindsey's unanimously loved. So like those guys, I think you can have a role. I don't know if I want them starting.
Right. Not 55, 60 snaps per game.
Yeah.
Role.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well, you're hearing more and more about Keldrick Faulk gaining more and more weight, which is awesome. The guy just can't stop growing, talking to folks close to him, which is good. So is he going to scoot inside and play that 3 technique? Then it's like, okay, well, who's your defensive end next year? So I don't know. The defensive line is where all the questions are for me. Linebacker, shockingly, you feel really good about, because even the guys coming in with DeMarcus Riddick and DJ Barber, like I'm fine with those guys getting reps next year. That's true freshman, Brad. And then defensive back, a lot of turnover, but the talent's in the room. So like I feel better about that too, just because the talent's in the room. So defensive line and tackle are the two places where it's like, well, you're not just having all these guys, you're not just hosting all these guys just cause. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not just having them in just cause. And I know Wednesday is very, very important, but at some point, you got to get some of these guys. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Be interesting to see if anybody commits before Wednesday.
I'm sure somebody will commit right after we publish this video.
It's true.
I almost guarantee it. Yeah.
We'll have to go into the comments section and go edit. This was recorded at, and give a timestamp.
That's right.
Oh, man.
That's right.
It's going to be a fun week.
It is. It is. And I think we're back to normal as far as our schedule. So, was that Monday, Wednesday, Thursday? Is that right?
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. You got it.
Okay. All right. I think we're back to normal now. I'm done traveling for a minute. So, Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Remember, everyone has vices. Everybody. Don't let somebody tell you they don't have vices. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.